Hey, we have some options in life, and one of those options is to eat. And for most of us, to eat, that involves a trip to the grocery store. Now, grocery shopping is a blessing, and it's an opportunity to practice a lot of characteristics in our life that we maybe need to develop, and one of those is patience. I always seem to get the slow cashiers. No matter what I do, I go into a grocery store and I kind of eyeball everything up, and it's like, okay, that line's moving, that line's not moving, that line has a lot of people with a lot of stuff, that line's, and I choose to go on the shorter, more seemingly fast aisle. Doesn't matter who, what it looks like, I end up always getting the slow girl. I'm sorry, girl cashier. It's usually girls for me. And it's like, I am frustrated because it's like, this is not what I planned. This is not my intention. I need to get out of here. And I'm not ever sure why we're always in such a rush at the grocery store, but my focus is to get the things on my list, preferably on my list, and try not to get too many things that aren't on my list, and get out of the store. And that's my goal. That's my focus. I want to achieve that plan. And when that's my focus, then few other things come into line. That's when I get caught off guard by getting a slow cashier. I have a life to live, I have plans, and it's all about me. And when I have that focus, things are gonna go wrong. It always seems that when we have a focus like that things don't go our way. And that's one of the things that we learn with patience, is that patience is introduced to us because things don't go our way. I don't have to be patient when everything happens the way I planned it. And it's interesting because James talks about talking about patience and persevering, but he talks about it, I think, kind of tongue-in-cheek, as what happens when we're not patient with each other. And he's talking about be patient there for the coming of the Lord. And you have to be patient, wait for the early and the late rains, talking about a farmer. And you also have to establish your hearts. And then he says in verse 9, this is what happens when you don't be patient, or when you're trying to be patient. Do not grumble against one another. Oh my goodness. How many times have we stood in the grocery store line and about this poor slow cashier? And a lot of times it's not her fault. Sometimes it's accumulation of a bad day gone amok, and then us customers, we want everything to go our way. So I think it's really interesting. There are two things we can talk about. When to be patient. Well, I think we need to be patient from the morning we put our feet on the floor and till at night when we put them back into bed. It is an ongoing, daily grind to learn that everything we do in life is requiring us to include patience in it, which we don't, because that would involve maybe us not getting our way or the timing that we'd like it to. So we have to be patient when circumstances are uncontrollable. When you can't manipulate situations, when it's out of your control, that's when our patience becomes tested. When we can control everything, it's a lot easier to be patient because we control our environment, the timing of it, the moving of parts. But when things are out of our control and we feel perhaps that we don't have a say, then our patience is tested because we can't control it. I think it's a lot about control and manipulation, depending on how our patience is. And then we have to be patient when people are unchangeable. There's some situations and some people who will not change. And the one thing you cannot change is a traffic jam and a slow cashier's line. Because the more frustrated we get, the slower it seems to go. And people are not going to change. People can change with their circumstances, but they're probably not going to change. And then the other thing is when to be patient is when problems are unexplainable. And that leads us right into the technology of our culture. I always get the cashier that doesn't know how to find the barcode on the food, or rang it up wrong, or doesn't know how to get to this part of her machine that she's zapping everything with. and she can't explain why it's not working. It doesn't make sense. And I have choices to make in that moment, because when circumstances are uncontrollable, when people are unchangeable, and when problems are unexplainable, then it's totally up to me how I'm going to handle the moment, because I can't control the circumstances, I can't control people or change people, and I can't explain what's going on. So why am I supposed to be patient? Well, number one, because God is in control. And I know it's really silly to think that God is in control of the slow checker at aisle 6 in Hy-Vee. But there's so many things we can do in those moments because God is in control. If God is in control of my life, how do I know what's happening elsewhere that I could have been a part of if I wasn't delayed? God sees the bigger picture. God also rewards patience. And I know that's really hard to do when you think your timeline is being challenged, but it's our timeline. And oftentimes we just need to step back and say, what's the bigger picture here? And the third thing is because God works things out. Now, I have had many times where I get to this slow cashier who has infuriated everyone in front of me, and half the people behind me have left to a different line. First thing I say is, you're having a tough day, aren't you? When you say those words, there's a load that comes off the person's heart, head, shoulders, because you are putting yourself in their situation. It's a hard day, and if it wasn't hard before that transaction went amok, it is now. And letting God work things out, being kind, just talking gently, how are you? When do you get off? When's your next break? Just making small talk changes the focus from everything that has been going wrong. And she knows everybody's talking about her. She knows everybody's impatient. Well, I'm saying she because I mostly get the she's. But we need to be patient because that's what God expects us to be. We are a reflection of Him. And God is so patient with us that we need to just simply be a reflection of God's patience with other people. And now we get to the best part. How to be patient? Well, yeah, right. Tell me about it. We wait expectantly, we wait quietly, we wait confidently. Okay, now, I know that standing in the checkout line at Hy-Vee, you're not going to say, I'm going to wait expectantly for the Lord to make this transaction go quickly so I can get on to whatever else my hurried life makes. Now, that's not the point. The point is that my timeline leaves when I put my life in God's hands. So therefore, my patience is with myself, not necessarily with other people, because God's in control of it all. And I'm the one who's impatient. It's not God. And it's not the situation. So if I learn to just wait expectantly and expect to see God moving in situations that I think I'm having to draw on my patience, if I wait quietly or say kind things, sometimes waiting quietly means we shut our mouth. Sometimes waiting quietly means we say kind words in a kind manner. And then wait confidently. I can go back and tell you about the many times that I've had slow checkers, cashiers. I've stood in line at Hy-Vee, at Target, at Walmart. But I can't tell you what happened after that, because it didn't seem to matter. I was all worked up about how long it was taking. But you know what? I can't think of what life crises I was trying to get to, because they probably weren't any. So if I'm waiting expectantly for God to work in every situation I'm in, then my life needs to be a life of patience, a life of living quietly, a life of living confident that God is going to handle the slow cashier, but He's also going to give me a moment in that time that I can do something amazing with it. And if I wait expectantly for God to put me in those moments, I will have slow cashiers. If I wait quietly and say the words God puts in my heart, I will have slow cashiers. And if I wait confidently, I've always gotten out with my groceries and I've always paid, and I'm not sure why I was so frustrated with it. Because when I kind of changed my mindset to this is an opportunity for God to work through me, this is an opportunity to work in someone's life, just a kind word, then what was going to happen 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes down the road that I might have had to alter or had to, change slightly? I have no clue what those conversations, those experiences were, but I do know the moments that I spent time talking in a kind way to the cashier. It brought her blood pressure down. It didn't raise mine. I usually have low blood pressure. But the shoulders that were all worked up, now were relaxed. She was smiling. She was deep breathing. And it didn't take a lot of work on my effort. It just took me understanding that God was putting me at a slow cashier on aisle 6 for a purpose. And it was probably more for me than for her. So, questions: what percentage of your day requires you to use patience? Well, if you have toddlers, 100% of it. But a lot of times we bring it on ourselves with that we're battling something in our day that God's just going, you can let that go. You don't have to worry about being patient over it. Just let it go. And then sometimes we have last straws in our patience battle. And there are certain people that we will struggle with more than others. And that develops our character, not necessarily theirs. We want to develop their character. God wants to develop ours. Have a great day.